The widowed farmer searched for the perfect wife until he noticed the poorest woman in town. The farmer's life became very quiet after his wife passed away. Her death did not come suddenly. She had been ill for a long time, and during those months he had tried his best to stay strong. He took her to doctors in the nearest city, spent his savings on treatment, and prayed every night for her recovery. But life had its own plans. One cold morning, she closed her eyes for the last time, leaving behind a home that no longer felt alive. After the funeral, the house felt too big and too empty. The walls that once echoed with laughter now held only silence. Every small thing reminded him of her. The cup she used for tea still sat on the kitchen shelf. Her shawl hung behind the door, untouched. At night, when the lamps were turned off, the silence became so heavy that it felt like it was pressing down on his chest. He was a farmer by birth and by heart. His land was inherited from his father and his father before him. The farm was not small. It had fields of wheat, a few cows, and a stable that needed daily care. During the day, he kept himself busy. He woke up before sunrise, fed the animals, checked the crops, and worked until his hands were tired. Physical work helped him forget, at least for a while. But when evening came, the pain returned. He had children, young, quiet, and still trying to understand why their mother was gone. They missed her deeply. Sometimes the youngest would ask when she was coming back, and the farmer would turn away so the children would not see tears in his eyes. He tried to play both roles, but he knew he was failing in ways that mattered. He could earn money, grow crops, and keep the roof over their heads, but he could not replace a mother's warmth. The town respected him. People often spoke kindly about him, calling him hardworking and honest. When his wife passed away, neighbors brought food, relatives visited, and elders offered advice. At first, everyone told him to take his time and heal. But as months passed, the words began to change. "You need someone in the house," they said. "Children grow better with a woman around. A farm needs a wife as much as it needs rain." He listened but did not respond. In his heart, he felt guilty even thinking about another woman. He believed that choosing someone new would mean forgetting the one he lost. Some nights, he sat alone outside his house, looking at the stars, wondering how life had moved on while he remained stuck in the past. Time, however, does not wait. The seasons changed and the farm demanded attention. During harvest season, he struggled more than usual. There were days when he felt completely exhausted, not just in body but in spirit. He noticed small things falling apart. Meals were simple and rushed. Clothes were not folded properly. The house slowly lost its warmth. It was not about comfort alone, it was about balance, and he knew it. One evening, after a long day of work, his children sat beside him. They were quiet for a while. Then the eldest spoke carefully, almost fearfully. The child said they missed having someone to talk to, someone who would listen and understand their small worries. The farmer felt a deep ache in his chest. He realized that his loneliness was not only his own. His children were sharing it too. That night, he did not sleep. He thought about responsibility, about the future, and about the life he was building for his children. He knew that love could not be forced, and no one could replace the woman he lost. But he also understood that life required moving forward, even when the heart resisted. Slowly, the idea of marriage entered his mind, not as a desire but as a duty. He did not dream of romance or passion. He only wanted peace, stability, and a kind presence in the house. Someone who could help raise his children with care and bring life back into the home. He promised himself that he would never rush or choose without respect. In the following weeks, relatives began to suggest names. Some women were widows, others never married. Most came from families that were known in the town. They spoke of education, appearance, and social standing. The farmer listened quietly, feeling distant from all these discussions. He did not feel excited. Instead, he felt pressure, as if everyone expected him to follow a path chosen for him. One Sunday afternoon, he visited his wife's grave alone. He cleaned the stone and sat there for a long time. He spoke softly as if she could hear him. He told her about the children, the farm, and the weight he carried every day. He told her that he did not want to forget her, but he also did not want their children to grow up in sadness. When he stood up to leave, he felt a strange calm, as if he had been given permission to continue living. From that day, he stopped pushing the idea away. He accepted that finding a wife again was not betrayal but survival. Still, he had no clear idea of what he wanted. He believed the right woman would bring balance, not perfection. Yet deep inside, like many people, he imagined someone who would make life easier, someone educated, capable, and respected by society. The farmer did not know it then, but this belief would soon be tested. His search for what seemed perfect would lead him down a path he never expected, one that would slowly change his understanding of love, value, and true partnership. For now, his life remained quiet, shaped by loss and responsibility. The farm still needed tending, the children still needed care, and his heart still carried a wound that had not healed. But somewhere between grief and duty, a new chapter was beginning, one that would start not with wealth or status, but with a simple moment that would catch his attention in the most unexpected place. After deciding that he could not live like this forever, the farmer slowly began to take small steps toward finding a wife. He did not announce it openly, but people in the town noticed the change. Relatives started visiting more often. Neighbors spoke more freely. Quiet suggestions turned into serious conversations. Everyone seemed ready to help him, whether he asked for it or not. At first, he felt uncomfortable. Sitting and talking about marriage felt strange after so many years with one woman. Still, he reminded himself that this was not about his own comfort. It was about the future of his children and the stability of the home. So he listened politely when people brought proposals and names. The first woman he met was from a respected family. She was well-dressed, spoke confidently, and came with her parents. They talked mostly about the farm, the land size, and the house. She asked questions about income, harvests, and property papers. The farmer answered honestly, but inside he felt empty. She barely spoke to the children and seemed more interested in the lifestyle than the family. When the meeting ended, everyone said it went well, but the farmer felt nothing. Soon after, another proposal came. This woman was educated and lived in a nearby town. She spoke kindly and smiled often. Her family praised her skills and manners. During the meeting, she talked about how things should be managed, how children should be raised, and how a household should run. Everything she said made sense, yet it sounded like instructions, not care. The farmer noticed she did not ask him how he felt or what he had been through. Again, people around him were pleased, but his heart remained quiet. As days passed, more meetings followed. Some women came with long lists of expectations. Some spoke about comfort and social respect. Others talked about how marriage would improve their lives. The farmer listened carefully every time. He never disrespected anyone. But after each meeting, when he returned to his empty house, he felt more tired than before. His children noticed the changes. They saw different faces coming and going. Sometimes they asked questions, sometimes they stayed silent. The farmer tried to involve them gently, asking what they felt. They did not complain, but they did not show excitement either. Their silence worried him more than words ever could. People in the town started forming opinions. Some said he should choose quickly. Others said he was being too picky. A few even said he should be grateful that women were willing to marry him. He heard these words, but he did not argue. Deep inside, he knew that choosing the wrong person would bring more problems than peace. One evening, after another meeting that left him restless, he sat alone in the yard. The sky was clear and the air was cool. He tried to think about what he truly wanted, not what others expected, not what looked good in society, but what would bring calm to his home. He realized that every meeting so far felt like a business deal. No warmth, no understanding, no connection. The next few proposals were no different. One woman spoke proudly of her family name. Another hinted that she expected a comfortable life without much effort. Some were polite, some were distant, and some seemed nervous, but none made him feel that quiet sense of peace he was searching for. He began to feel frustrated with himself. He wondered if he was asking for too much. Maybe marriage was always like this, he thought. Practical, planned, and careful. Maybe feelings came later. Still, something inside him refused to agree. His late wife had not been perfect, but their home had been full of warmth. He remembered how she spoke to the children, how she worked beside him, and how she listened even when words were few. Relatives continued pushing him. They reminded him of his age, the farm's demands, and the children's future. One elder told him that love was not necessary, only understanding. The farmer nodded, but his heart felt heavy. He feared waking up one day beside someone who felt like a stranger. During this time, he started spending more time outside the house. He visited the market more often, stayed longer in town, and watched people closely. He was not looking for anyone in particular. He was simply observing life, noticing how people treated one another. At the market, he saw many faces every day. Shopkeepers, laborers, women selling vegetables, and children running around. Some laughed, some argued, and some struggled quietly. He noticed that happiness did not always belong to those who had the most. Some of the richest people looked tired and impatient, while some poor faces carried calm and honesty. One day, while standing near a stall, he overheard two men talking about his search for a wife. They laughed and said he was aiming too high, meeting educated women when any woman would do. The farmer felt uncomfortable. He did not like being discussed like that. It made him question whether society truly cared about his happiness or only about appearances. As weeks turned into months, the farmer grew more distant from the search. Meetings felt like a burden. Every time someone mentioned a new proposal, he felt pressure in his chest. He did not want to hurt anyone, but he also did not want to live a life filled with regret. One afternoon, after declining another proposal politely, he returned home early. He found his children sitting quietly doing small chores. The house felt empty again. He realized that no matter how many people he met, nothing would change unless the right person entered his life. That evening, he made a quiet decision. He would stop searching aggressively. He would no longer chase the idea of a perfect wife defined by others. If life wanted to bring someone into his path, it would happen naturally. Until then, he would focus on his farm and children. This decision brought him some relief. The pressure eased slightly. He still remained open to marriage, but he stopped forcing himself into meetings that felt wrong. He believed that respect, kindness, and honesty mattered more than social image. What he did not realize was that his answer was already nearby. Not in the homes of wealthy families or formal meetings, but in a place he visited often and barely noticed before. His search for perfection was slowly leading him toward a truth he had never considered. Without knowing it, his eyes were beginning to open. The life he wanted was not hidden behind status or comfort. It was waiting in simplicity, patience, and quiet strength. And soon, a small, ordinary moment would change the direction of his life completely. The change began without the farmer noticing it clearly. He had not gone to the market that day with any special purpose. It was a normal morning. He needed seeds, animal feed, and a few household items. The sun was mild and the town was busy like always. People moved quickly, talking loudly, bargaining and laughing. He walked slowly, observing everything with tired but thoughtful eyes. Near the corner of the market, there was a small space where poor vendors usually sat. They did not have proper stalls, only cloth sheets spread on the ground. The farmer had passed this area many times before, but that day, something made him slow down. He noticed a woman sitting quietly behind a small basket of vegetables. The basket was not full, and the vegetables were simple and uneven. She did not call out to customers like others did. She just waited. She looked tired but not careless. Her clothes were clean but old. Her face showed signs of hard work, yet there was calm in her expression. A young child sat beside her, playing silently with a small stone. When a customer approached, the woman spoke politely, weighed the vegetables honestly, and accepted whatever payment was given without complaint. The farmer watched from a distance. He noticed how some people tried to bargain unfairly. They spoke sharply to her, knowing she needed the money. Each time she answered softly and did not argue. When someone paid less than expected, she still thanked them. There was no anger in her voice, only patience. He felt something stir inside him. It was not attraction, and not pity either. It was curiosity mixed with respect. He wondered how someone with so little could carry herself with such quiet strength. He bought what he needed from other shops, but his mind kept returning to that corner. Before leaving the market, he walked back and stood near her stall. When she looked up, their eyes met briefly. She lowered her gaze respectfully and asked what he wanted to buy. Her voice was gentle. There was no false sweetness, only sincerity. He bought vegetables from her, even though he did not need them urgently. He paid the fair price, not more, not less. She counted the money carefully and thanked him as she did with everyone else. As he turned to leave, he noticed the child beside her. The child looked thin but healthy, clean but simply dressed. The child smiled at him shyly. That smile stayed with him long after he walked away. Over the next few days, he found himself returning to the market more often than necessary. Each time he noticed her. She was always there, always quiet, always honest. Sometimes she sold little, sometimes nothing at all. Yet she stayed until evening, hoping someone would come. One day, he saw her trying to protect her vegetables from sudden rain using a torn cloth. Others rushed to cover their goods, but her cloth was not enough. Some vegetables got wet and ruined. She did not complain. She simply removed the damaged ones and placed the rest carefully. That day, he helped her without thinking too much. He held one corner of the cloth so she could secure it better. Their hands did not touch for long, but she looked up and thanked him. Her eyes showed surprise, not expectation. It was clear she was not used to help. They did not talk much at first. A few polite words, nothing more. But slowly, over several meetings, small conversations began. He learned that she was a widow too. Her husband had passed away years ago, leaving her with a child and no support. She had no land, no stable work, and no family nearby. She did whatever small jobs she could find. Selling vegetables was only one of them. She never spoke badly about her situation. She did not blame life or complain about people. When asked how she managed, she simply said she did what she could and trusted tomorrow to come. The farmer listened more than he spoke. He felt something unfamiliar, comfort. There was no pressure in these conversations, no expectations, no questions about his land or wealth. She did not treat him differently when she learned he owned a farm. Her tone remained the same. He began to notice small things, how she spoke kindly to her child, even when tired, how she shared food with another poor woman one afternoon, how she stayed honest even when she could easily lie to earn a little more. The town, however, noticed his interest before he did. Some people whispered, some laughed quietly. A few warned him gently, saying she was too poor, too simple, too unnoticed. He heard these words but did not respond. For the first time, such opinions felt distant. One afternoon, he asked her if she ever rested. She smiled slightly and said rest was a luxury, but peace came from knowing she was doing her best. That answer stayed in his heart. He started buying vegetables from her regularly, not as charity but as support. He never offered money without reason. He treated her with respect like an equal. She noticed this and slowly trusted him. His children also noticed the change in him. He spoke more calmly. He smiled sometimes without effort. When they went to the market with him one day, they met her too. She spoke kindly to them, asked their names, and offered them small fruits without being asked. The children felt comfortable around her almost immediately. That moment affected him deeply. He had met many women during his search, but none had spoken to his children with such natural care. There was no performance, no effort to impress. That night he thought long and hard. He questioned himself. Was he imagining things? Was he confusing kindness with something more? He reminded himself of the difference in their lives. He was respected, stable, and known. She was poor, struggling, and often ignored. The distance between them seemed too great. Yet every time he tried to ignore his thoughts, they returned. He realized that while others looked perfect on the surface, she felt real. Life had shaped her, not softened her, but strengthened her quietly. One evening, as the market was closing, he noticed her sitting alone, unsold vegetables still in her basket. He helped her carry them to the side. She thanked him and said she would try again tomorrow. There was no sadness in her voice, only acceptance. As he walked home, his heart felt heavy but clear. For the first time, he questioned everything he believed about marriage, worth, and choice. He wondered why society valued appearance over character, comfort over courage. He did not yet know what decision he would make. But he knew one thing clearly: his search for a wife had changed. He was no longer looking for someone who looked perfect. He was beginning to see the value of someone who lived with honesty, patience, and quiet strength. And without realizing it fully, the poorest woman in town had already entered his life in the most meaningful way, by changing how he saw the world and himself. The farmer did not rush into any decision after realizing how much the poor woman had affected him. He was careful both with his thoughts and his actions. He knew how quickly people could misunderstand kindness. Still, his heart felt lighter each time he saw her. It confused him, but it also gave him peace. He continued visiting the market, sometimes with a reason, sometimes without one. Their conversations slowly became longer. They spoke about daily life, weather, work, and children. Simple things. She never asked him personal questions, and he respected her silence. This made him trust her even more. One day he asked her if she ever felt tired of struggling. She paused before answering, then said yes. She did feel tired, but giving up was not an option. She said her child depended on her, and that responsibility gave her strength. Her words were simple, but they carried deep meaning. The farmer thought of his own children and felt a strong connection in that moment. As their bond grew, the town began to talk openly. People noticed that the farmer, once distant and quiet, now smiled more often. They noticed where he spent his time and with whom he spoke. Whispers turned into clear opinions. Some people warned him gently. Others spoke harshly behind his back. They said he was lowering his status. They said he was being emotional and careless. A few even suggested that the woman might be trying to take advantage of him. These words hurt him, but he did not let them control his actions. For the first time in a long while, he trusted his own judgment more than public opinion. One evening, an elder from the town visited him. The elder spoke honestly, without anger. He said the farmer should think carefully before making a choice that would shock everyone. He reminded him of his position, his children, and the future. The farmer listened respectfully, then replied calmly. He said he had thought deeply, and that peace in his home mattered more than approval from others. The elder left without arguing, but the message spread quickly. People realized that the farmer was serious. Some were disappointed, some were curious, some were silent. Meanwhile, the poor woman noticed the change in how people treated her. Some stopped buying from her. Some looked at her differently. She felt uncomfortable. One day, she told the farmer that people were talking and that she did not want to bring trouble into his life. Her voice was soft, but her concern was clear. The farmer assured her that no one could bring trouble unless he allowed it. He told her that respect mattered more than fear. This conversation was honest and emotional but still calm. There were no promises made that day, but something important passed between them: understanding. A few days later, he invited her to his farm. Not suddenly, not forcefully. He explained that his children wanted to meet her again. She hesitated at first, unsure of her place, but agreed after careful thought. When she arrived, the children welcomed her naturally. They showed her the animals and the fields. She listened, smiled, and praised their efforts. She did not act like a guest who felt superior, nor like someone who felt ashamed. She simply behaved as herself. She helped prepare a simple meal that day without being asked. She worked quietly, comfortably, as if she had always belonged there. The farmer watched from a distance. He noticed how the house felt different, warmer, calmer, alive. After that visit, he became sure of his feelings. Not excitement, not desire, but certainty. He knew life with her would not be easy. There would be challenges, judgments, and adjustments. But he also knew there would be honesty, effort, and peace. Before making any move, he spoke to his children privately. He asked them how they felt about the woman. They answered honestly. They said she was kind. They said they felt comfortable around her. One child said the house felt nicer when she was there. That answer stayed with him. The next step was the hardest. He went to her and spoke clearly. He told her about his life, his past, his responsibilities, and his intentions. He did not promise comfort or ease. He only promised respect, partnership, and sincerity. He told her she was free to say no. She listened quietly, tears forming in her eyes. She did not answer immediately. She asked for time. The farmer respected that and stepped back. Days passed. The town waited. Speculation grew. Some believed she would refuse. Others believed she would accept quickly. No one truly understood what was happening between them. When she finally came to him with her answer, her voice was steady. She said she did not seek wealth or protection. She said she had lived alone for years and knew how to survive. But she also said she saw honesty in him and kindness in his children. She agreed not out of need but out of trust. The reaction from the town was strong. Some were shocked. Some were angry. Some mocked the decision openly. The farmer stood firm. He did not argue. He did not explain. He simply continued with his life. The marriage was simple. No grand celebration. No display of wealth. Only close family and a few respectful neighbors attended. The poor woman entered the farmer's home not as someone rescued, but as a partner. The early days were not perfect. They had to adjust to each other's routines, habits, and ways of thinking. There were misunderstandings and moments of silence. But there was also effort, patience, and honesty. The woman worked alongside him on the farm. She cared for the children with natural affection. She did not try to replace their mother, but she created her own place in their hearts. Slowly, the house changed. Laughter returned. Meals became shared moments instead of rushed tasks. The town watched closely. Some expected failure. Some waited for regret. But as months passed, they saw something different. The farmer looked healthier. The children looked happier. The farm was well managed. The woman carried herself with the same quiet dignity as before. Criticism slowly faded into acceptance. People realized that the farmer had not lost anything. Instead, he had gained something rare. By choosing the woman everyone overlooked, he had chosen peace over pride, character over image, and truth over comfort. And in doing so, he surprised not only the town, but himself as well. This choice would soon show its true value, not in words, but in the life they built together. One step, one season, one quiet day at a time. Life after the marriage did not change overnight, but it changed steadily, like a slow sunrise. At first, everything felt new and uncertain. Two lives that had grown used to hardship now had to learn how to move together. The farmer and his wife both understood this, so they did not rush anything. They allowed time to do its work. The woman woke up early every morning, often before the farmer. She helped prepare simple meals, cleaned the house, and quietly learned the rhythm of the farm. She did not act like an owner, nor did she behave like a guest. She worked with care, asking questions when needed and listening closely. The farmer noticed this and felt grateful. There was no pride in her actions, only responsibility. The children watched her closely at first. They were polite but careful. They missed their mother deeply, and no one could replace that place in their hearts. The woman understood this well. She never forced affection. She spoke gently, helped them with small tasks, and praised their efforts. Slowly, the children began to trust her. They started sharing their stories, their worries, and their small joys. When they laughed around her, the farmer felt something heal inside him. Life on the farm became more organized. The woman had lived a life where nothing could be wasted, so she managed things wisely. She repaired old clothes instead of throwing them away. She stored food carefully. She helped during harvest time and cared for the animals with patience. The farmer realized that wealth was not only about money, but about how wisely life was handled. There were challenges, of course. Some days were tiring. Some nights brought old memories and quiet sadness. Sometimes the farmer missed his late wife, and sometimes the woman remembered her own painful past. They did not hide these feelings. They spoke openly without blame. This honesty strengthened their bond. The town continued to watch them. At first, people waited for trouble. They expected disagreements, failure, or regret. But months passed and nothing like that happened. Instead, people saw a peaceful home. The children were doing better in school. The farm was improving. The woman greeted neighbors with respect, just as she always had in the market. Slowly, attitudes changed. People who once whispered now nodded in respect. Some even apologized quietly for judging too quickly. A few women began visiting her, asking for advice or help. She welcomed everyone kindly, never speaking badly about the past. One day, the farmer realized something important. He was no longer carrying the heavy loneliness he once felt. The house no longer felt empty. Even silence felt comfortable now. He understood then that happiness did not come from finding someone perfect, but from finding someone willing to walk through life with honesty and effort. The woman, too, felt a deep sense of peace. For the first time in years, she did not feel invisible. She was not valued for what she owned, but for who she was. She felt safe, respected, and trusted. This gave her strength she had never known before. As time passed, the farm continued to grow. Crops were better, animals healthier, and the home warmer. But the greatest growth was unseen. It was in the confidence of the children, the calm of shared evenings, and the quiet understanding between husband and wife. One evening, after a long day, the farmer and his wife sat outside, watching the sky turn orange. They did not speak much. They did not need to. Their silence was full, not empty. In that moment, the farmer understood how far he had come, from loss, confusion, and pressure to clarity and peace. The town no longer talked about his choice. Instead, his story became an example. People began to understand that worth could not be measured by wealth or status, that sometimes the most overlooked person carried the strongest heart. The farmer never claimed to be wise. He only said that life had taught him slowly. He had searched for perfection and found disappointment. But when he stopped searching and started seeing people as they truly were, life gave him something far better than he had imagined. In choosing the poorest woman in town, he did not lose respect. He earned something deeper. He gained a partner, a peaceful home, and a future built on trust. And in the end, he understood a simple truth. Real wealth is not what others see, but what you live with every day, quietly and honestly.